let's move on to talking about young actors, because you have written a piece as well that is written to be performed by young actors, and which also deals with a very, very difficult theme. It deals with school shootings. Can you talk about, I mean, that's, you've written for young performers, I guess, maybe more than that, but at least this piece is very harrowing.
Yeah, yes, it's about a school shooting. It was loosely based, some of the format was loosely based on Columbine, but it's set in a Norwegian school. It's written in Norwegian, in the idiom, in Norwegian. I was commissioned to write this play for Connections, the young, Unge Scenen,
yes.
Which I'm sure viewers are familiar with. Well, I don't think it's any secret that there was quite a lot of controversy around it, and it wasn't appreciated. The manuscript that I handed in, it was regarded as being quite amoral, unethical, difficult to understand, sloppy, badly written. There was a number of pejoratives which were levied against it. My dramaturg fought for it in a very diplomatic way, and eventually it was, albeit reluctantly, accepted into the canon of that year. And a lot of people didn't choose it because it was the drama teachers who were, and those who were running youth theatres who on the whole were deciding which manuscripts to choose. Those who did choose to perform the play were teachers and directors who were thinking outside of the box, who knew it was a big risk. Because I didn't give it a happy ending, and I didn't give it an acceptably moral message which could fall within the parameters of the curriculum, if you will. It was quite dodgy. It was felt by some people that there was a defence of school shooters, you know. It wasn't long after I won the Ibsen Award for that play.
Exactly. So, I mean, although there were people who spoke against it, there were obviously also a lot of people who were really in favour.
Well, and what happened was those who fought most for it, it got a very bad review once by an older reviewer, someone who's been around for very many years, a very traditional one. She's a very big name within the review community, if you will, here. And she slaughtered it and said it was an embarrassment that these poor kids had been put through this, having to stand on stage with this dreadful manuscript. And what was interesting was this tsunami of support came from the very kids around the country who had been performing this, who basically said, you don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't written for you. You're too old to understand this. But this isn't that because I wrote for kids, it's because I'm basically extremely immature emotionally. This was one of the causes, reasons I have so many mental health issues. But I have the alarm, fear, and resentment of a teenager, because for a number of reasons I never grew out of it. So I didn't write with a finger waving at all. I believe that there was a very strong moral backbone in that particular piece, but it was not censored. I mean, I wrote it exactly as I would have written it had it been for actors of 25 or 35 who were going to perform it in a late night club to an adult audience. I didn't censor it in the slightest, and this was quite challenging. And of course, the young persons who performed this, I've had quite very profound communications with a number of them who I'm still in touch with, and some of them are grown up now, you know, my kids, who have still spoken of this experience. And I mean, I won the award in 2010, and a year later, on the 22nd of July, I got approached by a number of 3 different youth theatres around the country who wanted to restage that play because they felt that it was about Breivik, you know, a younger version of Breivik. I said I thought that would be inappropriate to jump on the bandwagon. I also felt that the play didn't give any explanations. The play didn't give you any answers. And when you write for young people, you're supposed to give answers. You're supposed to propose a problem which can look a bit uncomfortable at the beginning, but is easily solvable. Either your characters can solve it, or you can have a deus ex machina that can come in and solve it for you. You never want to expose the kids to confusion or doubt. And when I have written for young people, I've absolutely left it hanging there, because I believe that there is something to be said for allowing people to recognise themselves. That's enough. Just to go, that's me, that is. Yeah, you are seen. I bear witness. What you do with that is up to you. I'm not telling you how, I cannot tell you how to solve your problems through this play. When I've gone on the road and seen my work, because I've any opportunity I have to go and see the play being watched by a young audience or being performed by youngsters is invaluable. So I've scrabbled together my krona. You never get money to do that, and that's not the point. And I just go wherever I can, and if I can talk to them afterwards, if they want to, we have a conversation. And I've seen. Yeah, I've had a number of members of the audience, but also certainly members of the companies who've performed the works, who want to tell, who want to say, I didn't think that a grown-up could see me, to really see what goes on for us. And I maintain it's because I'm still that age. I'm still 17 or 16 or 15 or 14.
Do you think that's something a writer can or should strive to do, to find the teenager or the child within themselves when they write?
I mean, what I'm supposed to say here is, well, every writer is supposed to find their own. Yes, is the answer. All writers who are writing for young people. If you are not, if you have to strive to find it, it's already game over, mate. You shouldn't be writing for kids. You shouldn't even be thinking about it. You should write from the gut, and it should resonate. I also maintain that by the time they're 12, they are reaching for a higher bar. You can't serve 12-year-old material to a 12-year-old. Really what you should be doing is serving 20-year-old material to 12-year-olds. You know, I mean, maybe by the time they're 10, it's too late. There's no such thing as youth theatre, because by the time they're youth, they want to be adults. So serving them youth material is an insult. Not to all of them, but to a lot of them. And I've certainly seen them. I mean, before I started writing for youth, the genesis of my work for saying yes to writing for young people was that I had written a play in 2009 about, as a strong critique or an analysis of pornography. I mean, this was very hardcore and X-rated. It was very critical of pornography, but it didn't exclude showing pornography. And I did a school lecture / performance on the basis of that material from that play, which I wasn't in. It was written for 5 actors, where I went to high schools, and we were talking 15 to 18-year-olds. I was showing them pornography, analysing it, discussing it, talking about it, explaining it almost in a rhetorical, poetical manner, if you will, and being quite angry about it. I wasn't screaming and shouting. I was making it very clear. If you expose yourself to this stuff, X, Y, and Z will happen. And when you know, first of all, the kids have been told they're going to see pornography. You know, and half of them are, and they're always, especially the girls, vi ska se på porno och det blir bara gay alltså. Because I'm sorry, there are young women who play into the porn thing as a way to have attention from young men. And the guys who are sitting there, vi ska se på porno. And then you've got, particularly in certain parts of Oslo, where you have young women in hijab and young men of modest religious backgrounds, non-Norwegian, and you're thinking, God, this is really on the edge, what I'm doing here, showing these people this. But certainly it was young Muslim men and women at that time who sat there quietly watching it with incredible dignity. Not exclusively, but I very much noticed them because I was very curious about what their reaction to this would be. I remember one boy coming up and saying, "Det är väldigt bra det du gör här. Sex is a private thing, and it shouldn't be as public as it is now with pornography." And I was like, "I hear you, brother," you know. And it was the most sexualized teens who were the most confronted with this material. One little boy came up, he must have been 17, and a school which I will not mention. And he came up and he was clearly a little bit nerdy with a satchel, and he was wearing a rød ungdom, red to youth, you know, the badge. He just came up and he was crying. He just said, "Thank you, thank you. It has to be talked about." And I just realised how many boys we often make our plays for young people gender specific. We either talk about eating disorders or violence, you know, or bullying, or it's quite gender specific sometimes. And it was quite interesting to see how this small possibility of liberation from pornography might happen. But that was very hardcore material that I was presenting. I spoken to a lawyer before I went into the schools, because you must. Is anything I'm doing here illegal? No, it isn't. However, ethics is another thing. So I've always walked that line. I get quite offended when people say my work is amoral, immoral, or unethical, because I work very hard to keep the moral compass pointing strong and firm.